about it, how would anybody know when midnight is? How would you know that? It is not possible for you to know that without constantly looking at your watch. There's absolutely nothing about midnight that tells you it's midnight. But there is definitely something that tells you that sundown has happened, and there's a difference between the day and the night. We've all, if you're anywhere near a beach, they tell you, you know, sunset is so beautiful. It is an event. That event, what you're watching, is the changing from one day to another. And look, there's an event. They talk about how pretty it is. Absolutely nothing happens at midnight. So we have to get the thought process of Babylon out of our head. Yahweh's ways make sense if we deal with it. If we take those things on and think about them, they make perfect sense. Brother, I want you to read that in Isaiah 66. You guys don't have to turn to that. I want you to go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. But I want you to read Isaiah 66 and verse 23.
And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, says Yah.
And this is prophetic in saying that this is dealing with the future. So we have to understand that this new moon is something that Yahweh has ordained and set up. Now, when you look at the graphic that's there, what the new moon is a completely dark moon. The moon is always lit on one side of the moon. It's just lit on the side that we can't see. If you look at this graphic, you see the sun on the right. The white part is the moon being lit on that side, but you're on the blue part of the earth, which means that the dark side of the earth is dark side of the moon is the part that you see. So what happens at new moon is a alignment of the earth, moon, and sun, and it happens every 29.5 days. This is how Yahweh is orchestrating his time, his month. And all of our time is dealing with these three things: earth, moon, and sun. We're dealing with the rotations and the various orbits of those things. Now, if you look at this graphic, it shows you you have the earth has a little red arrow going there. So we know that the earth rotates, and that is the period of our day. This earth rotating, in its rotation, it gives us this 24-hour period of a day. All right, it's either going to rotate where it's showing toward the sun or away from the sun. So you see on this blue part, this is the part that's lit by the sun. As it rotates, this other part that's dark is going to come to the light. So one part is daytime, another part of the earth is nighttime. So this is that rotation. When you get to this moon, you then see a red arrow going. This moon then orbits around the earth. That takes our 29.5 days. This is then our month. So you got the earth rotating, that's our day. You got the moon rotating or orbiting around the earth, that's our month. Then you have the earth and its orbiting moon going all the way around the sun, that is our year. Yahweh has order. All of this is set forth in his order. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Go to graphic number 3 in the back.
And the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, Let there be light, and there was light. And Elohim saw the light that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so.
This graphic here is what they call Pangea, which when you push all the land masses together, you'll find that they fit together like a puzzle. When you deal with all of these things, you see that at some point those things were together, and those things were then separated. When we talk about, a lot of times when we're doing these things, and it says, the first day, the second day, do understand we're dealing with Yahweh's days. We're not dealing with a day of what you call a day. It may be 1,000,000 years in between day one and day two, 1,000,000 of our years. So understand what we're dealing with here. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together onto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed was in itself upon the earth. And it was so.
So the way that things are supposed to go, everything is supposed to have a seed in it, and that seed is supposed to bring forth the same fruit that seed came from. But we know that man has completely altered things at this point, and that is not happening. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years.
Right. So now we read the very thing that we just talked about. These things that are in the heaven were to separate our days, our seasons, and our years. And we see that he is consistent with each one of those, that he's just dealing with the various orbits and the rotation. It gives us all of these things. So when people tell you that they have this Enoch calendar, Yahweh has already set forth his calendar, and Enoch ain't thought of. Enoch ain't nowhere on this scene, and Yahweh has already set forth what his calendar is. So when somebody comes to you with an Enoch calendar, you can just take that and throw it away. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
All right. Now, there are several things. Go to graphic number 12. And when we deal with the definition of this word Yereach, which is the moon, and then we find Kodesh, which is the new moon. This lets us know that Yahweh has ordained this order. Now, the moon takes 29.5 days to return to the same point on the celestial sphere as referenced to the sun, because of the motion of the earth going around the sun. This is called a synodic month because everything is still moving. Go to picture 13 and read that note, brother.
Years. If a year were always considered to be 365 days, the calendar would effectively slip one day forward every 4 years. After 360 years of that system, the calendar would be 90 days off from the true seasons. Winter would end in June rather than in March if a calendar assumed a moon cycle to be 29 or 30 days rather than 29 and a half. It would become 6 days off in 1 year. Completely useless.
So we have what people have done. They have these leap years and all of these other things to try and get the calendar back on itself because it's not this perfect thing that you can divide into. And this is what that Enoch calendar does. It completely divides time into these perfect little squares, and it's not possible to do so. So then they have to make up days that are not really days and time that's not really time, and we don't have to do that. Yahweh has already given us this time. Go to pick 16, and you guys go to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and let's read verses 1 through 3.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers.
So, the beginning of it says in verse 2, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So the first month of the year should then it starts talking about take you a lamb. So when it's talking about Passover, this is when your new year is. Now the heathen has already kept their new year in January. He's letting us know, and the heathen know exactly when Passover is because they've set up Easter so it would be close to Passover. So they know when the new year is supposed to happen. We can just go back a couple weeks. We start seeing trees bloom. We start seeing all of these things. None of those things are happening in January. It is dead cold in January. Absolutely nothing is growing. There's not even any leaves on the trees. The trees look like they're dead because they have shed every leaf possible. So Yahweh says, like we read in the beginning, all of these things are growing. Things are happening. Once again, as we get to the beginning of the year, now we just seen just in our parking lot. A couple weeks ago, we watched this tree completely transform. White blooms all over the tree. Everything starts happening. And then those leaves come in and turn green. As they're going to the opposite end, they change colors because they're dying. And then they fall off. Once they turn completely brown, the wind blows. They're not alive anymore. They're not strong. They fall all off, all the trees, and the trees become bare. This is the same process that happens over and over. But Yahweh has given us this thing to let us know when our new year is. Now, of course, we have people that mock our new year. They call us April Fools. See? And we did the same thing. We mocked it when we didn't know no better. We walk around celebrating April Fools, didn't know exactly what it meant. What we were doing was making fun of the people who kept their new year around March/April, and this is also then when we would be keeping our Passover and our feast days. Let's go to Exodus chapter 13, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And we did have 2 new births today. I have a certificate of baptism for Nikita Grant Samuel, who was born August 24th, 1994, and was reborn today, March 17, 2018. Congratulations, Sister Nikita. Come and get this. Congratulations. And we also have Miss Vanessa Grant Samuel, and she is baptized as Abiyah. That is her new name. She was born on February 21st, 1967, but she was reborn today, March 17th, 2018. So y'all give it up for this brand new baby in here. All right, let's go to Exodus 13, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborn whatsoever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. And Moshe said unto the people, Remember this day, in which you came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand Yah brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day came you out in the month of Abib.
Right. So then we find this Abib then is what we would call, which would correspond to the ending of March, beginning of April. Because understand, our months are not going to directly line up with the heathen system. It's going to be toward the end. So there's a difference between February/March and March/April. March/April is going to be the ending part of March going into April. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And it shall be when Yahweh shall bring you into the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, which he sware unto your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep the service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and in the 7th day shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with you. Neither shall there be leaven seen with you in all your quarters.
So this is what we have to clean out of our houses. We have to go in and take this leaven out of our dwellings. This is what the cleaning is all about. It is not for Passover. Everybody has kind of linked those two together. But you have Passover one day. The next day begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And for 7 days, no leaven can be in your houses. So we as a people, and even if you get into the New Testament, it'll say the Passover or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is called the Passover. No, it ain't. Those are separate things. But what it does is it lets you know what our people have gotten off into by after some time. So like even if you go to stores today and you start looking for wine, it'll say kosher for Passover. There's absolutely nothing that has to be out of your house on Passover. So there's no such animal as kosher for Passover. The statement makes no sense. Leaven does not have to be removed out of your house on Passover. Leaven has to be removed out of your house the next day, which would be the beginning of unleavened bread. So that sign should say kosher for unleavened bread. But Jake don't know what unleavened bread is. So people have a tendency to use things that other people will recognize. We have to understand the damage that's done in that we're just going to deal with something because people have gotten accustomed to it. This is the reason why some Hebrew organizations will constantly use the name Jesus. They say, well, this is the name that everybody know, so let's just use that name and it'll give us more people and more money. So then this is the term that everybody ends up going with, even though they may give themselves Hebrew names and use the name here and there as it suits them. But they're going to constantly keep that name Jesus, because they say, this is the name that you find in the book. And we can read and we can see where these things were implemented and put in the book. They openly put that. If you have a study Bible, it'll tell you that Lord wasn't even in there, that they put that in there. But that would be the parts right before the first book of the Bible. And a lot of people just don't read, those little bitty parts. And if you have a study Bible, they have things all throughout the study Bible to show you, okay, this was really this right here should have been like this. And it's all throughout the book. If, we look at that. Jump to graphic number 21 and read the things on the seasons.
Seasons. H4150 Moed or Moedah. From H3259, properly an appointment, that is, a fixed time or season. Specifically a festival, conventionally a year. By implication, an assembly is convened for a definite purpose. Technically, the congregation, by extension, the place of meeting. Also a signal, as appointed beforehand. Appointed, sign, time, place of solemn assembly.
So then when we deal with this Moed or our feast days, you'll have that these things are done in their particular seasons. So then we have to observe these things according to the season that they're supposed to be in. When we look at, if we just had a lunar calendar, then our feast days would run throughout all the seasons, and they cannot change outside of the season that they're supposed to be in, because they are agricultural festivals. These are all, we are to then make offerings unto Yahweh based on the growth that we have gotten throughout these various seasons. So that's what these things are about. I just wanted to go over a brief thing about what the new moon is, especially for those who are new in the word. A new moon is basically a new month, but we are not going to hold you today because this new moon is also our new year. So we are going to get to our party. Enjoy your new moon. Shalom.